Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel, or welcome if you're new. My name is Veda and this is The Simple Budget. Here on my channel I show you simple but effective ways of maintaining a stress-free financial life. If you haven't already, I would love it if you would subscribe to my channel. And now let's get into today's video. All right, well, hello everyone and happy Wednesday, an unusual day for me to be coming here to you with the video. Everything's fine in the simple household here. I have spent a lot of time like refining my budget planner so that I can get it up for you guys so that you can, take advantage of it for the new year. And also just like working on other products for my shop as well. And sometimes when I get stuck into something like that, my brain just like zeroes in and can't focus on other things. But I'm back. I'm bringing you the content. Today's video is going to be my budget with me for the month of November, which is exciting. And also I kind of wanted to go into a little bit more detail in today's video with you as well for how we've made a budget that really works for us, that has provided longevity. So sometimes you get really excited to create a budget plan for yourself, but it's difficult to stick with. And it's sort of, I always feel like it's a combination of, yeah, obviously you have to discipline yourself and you have to stay on budget, but you also have to really consider all of the factors that go into making a successful budget. And so I'm going to kind of go into those details today a little bit more than I usually do, just to kind of help, because I feel like we're all sort of feeling the strain right now financially. I keep hearing different politicians saying that, things are becoming cheaper finally, and the price of groceries are going down. And that is not my experience. In fact, every single time I go, I see a price increase on products that I usually buy. And yes, I'm aware of those things because I watch my budget really closely. And so I just feel like now is a really good time to do that, especially as we're approaching the new year. And a lot of people, they love a good a New Year's resolution. And I feel like there's no better New Year's resolution than creating a budget and sticking to it. And sometimes just knowing how to make one that works for you, actually works for you and not against you, is a difficult thing to really kind of tackle. So I want to offer just some tips and tricks of things that I've learned along the way and things that I've really found have benefited me, apart from my usual, like, you have to be disciplined, because I think that sort of goes without saying. I think everybody knows at this point, you can't just, drop $7 at Starbucks every day on your favorite drink, and you can't treat yourself every single time you leave the house, and you can't, buy your kids something every single time they ask you for it. Like, I feel like these are all concepts and bits of advice that we all already know, but how do you actually create a budget that works for you? And I really hope to be able to kind of share some insight that we have found. We've been doing this for 2.5 years now. We have absolutely actually more than 2.5 years, and we have no intentions to stop. We are going to plug forward with this. This has worked so well for us. We're so happy doing the system the way that we've been doing it. And so, yeah, I wanted to kind of share what has worked for us over this course of time, and hopefully you can get a little bit of insight into maybe how you can make it work for yourself. So I'm going to go ahead and zoom you guys in. I'm going to grab my budget sheets, zoom you guys in, and then we will get into the budget with me. All right, so now that I have you guys zoomed in, we will get started with this video. By the way, for those of you who care, I will leave my nail polish linked in the description below. This color is currently sold out, but there is a similar color available on her website that I can link you guys to. And if you're new and wondering why the heck I'm talking about this, my nail polish change has been requested, or the knowledge of my nail polish color has been requested on past videos. And so whenever I do a polish change, I like to talk about it here on the channel. So, and this is a popular one, which is why it's, not available right now, but there is a dupe on the website. So, and I use Light's Lacquer nail polish. If you are new and you've never heard me talk about them before, it's my favorite polish. It's like the best quality and I really love it. And so I like to talk about it here on my channel every now and then because I don't know. I think if you're going to spend your money on something, you may as well spend it on something that's good quality, right? Buy once, cry once. Although in my case, I don't ever just buy once with her. I love her nail polish and I have like all the colors. So, but anyways, I'm not sponsored or anything. It's just, I really love this nail polish and I love to share those things with you guys whenever I have the chance. So anyways, this is the budget planner that I have been working on. I mean, you guys have seen this for a while now. It's not like this is like particularly new, but all of the changes that I am making to it are things that I have to work on updating for my shop, especially for the new year. And then also one of the things that I've never done before is made this available as a digital download on US letter size so that you can, I mean, that's the easiest thing to be able to have printed somewhere else if you don't have a printer, but it's also the easiest thing for you to print at home if you do have a printer. And that has been like long requested of me. So this will be available very soon in my Etsy shop in both A5 and US letter sizes. And then I will be updating at some point my digital planner as well. That one is much more time consuming. And so getting all of the tweaks on that one worked out is a little bit more challenging than just updating the printable version. So just stay tuned for that. It is going to be available soon so that you can get it for the new year, as well as some other things that I'm working on, but I digress. Anyways, so around here, we utilize the zero-based budgeting method. And what that means is that you are creating a plan for every single dollar that you bring in a paycheck. And so just to give you a little bit of insight into what you're dealing with as far as like my circumstances are concerned. We're a single income household. I do get money from Etsy and YouTube, but it is not enough to create a budget plan off of that you can count on. And so our main budgeting goals are all met with my husband's income. And then we treat anything that I bring in as a bonus to those things. My husband is also a salaried employee and he is paid biweekly. And so we are able to create a monthly budget overview for our budget goals for the month. But I also, in my budget planner, I have available 5 individual paycheck planners. In addition to this, it's not like an either or. You get everything. You get the monthly budget overview and you get the 5 paycheck planners for each month. But in case you don't have the ability to do a monthly overview, and you budget by paycheck, you are still able to do the zero-based budgeting method utilizing that as well. You're still creating a plan for every single dollar that comes in that paycheck. It's just not something that's as like consistent and reliable as a salary necessarily. So whatever way you like to budget though, I do have that available in my budget planner. So, but because of that, it makes it really easy for us to kind of determine how we're going to budget for the month. And then as far as like cash stuffing is concerned, we can do pretty uniform cash stuffings because it doesn't really change much from week to week because we are getting money pretty consistently throughout the month. So I'll dive into it here and kind of talk you through how we've made this process work for us over the last couple of years. So I just write over here on the income source, Mr. Simple. That is what he is known as around here on my channel. And he, for the month of November, will be bringing in $8,999.44. And so when I say that we create a plan for every single dollar that comes into our house, I literally mean at the end of this video, at the end of this budgeting sheet, all $8,999.44 will be accounted for. And I'll show you how we do that, and why we decided to do it this way is because what we've come to realize, especially over these last couple of years, is that budgeting for every dollar gives you the tools to utilize all of your money. Oh, sorry. This is, I live in Texas, so the trucks around here are very loud and very big. Anyways, so it gives you the tools to create a plan for your money, not just for the month that you're in, but also for the months to come. And that has been, for us, the primary cause of a successful budget. Because we never, especially because we've been doing this for so long now that we never encounter an expense that comes up throughout the year that we didn't think about or plan for. Now, I don't mean that we don't have emergency expenses. Obviously, if you have to go to the emergency room, that is not a planned for expense. But if you have a medical category of your budget and you are contributing to that medical category every single month, you will build up a little bit of a buffer there to protect you in the event of an emergency room visit. Now, there's lots of guidance out there as far as like, do you set up the Dave Ramsey way, $1,000 for an emergency fund, pay down your debt, and then, set up a bigger emergency fund afterward? Or do you do like the Caleb Hammer approach, where I think he wants you to establish emergency fund, like a 3 to 6 month emergency fund right up front? Correct me if I'm wrong on that, if you know better. But then he recommends like you set up the emergency fund, then you pay down your debt, and then you work on other things. Either way, however you decide to do it, you have to be the person who decides how you're going to handle that particular variable. We have loved utilizing Dave Ramsey's guidance as far as like getting us out of debt, and we have tweaked things here and there to cater to our own personal needs and circumstances, but by and large, we're still following his guidance. We found that the $1,000 really did get us through paying. Now we have planes. The $1,000 emergency fund really did work for us to get us through paying down the debt. And we had just under $60,000 of consumer debt to pay down. So it's not like, there are people out there who are like, that's not enough money to get you through a real emergency. And while I generally tend to agree, I think it is I don't think that Dave Ramsey's approach here is to be nuanced. He is coming up with a one-size-fits-all plan that is going to factor in most of the circumstances that most of the people will encounter during the time that they're paying down their debt. And so you can't ever plan for an emergency, but there are like $1,000 will still cover most small emergencies that happen while you're paying down your debt. For example, if you have to go to the emergency room and you have health insurance, that's a big caveat there. But if you have to go to the emergency room and $1,000 is usually enough to cover like a deductible or something like that for your emergency room visit. And I'm trying to think like what else. Like if you have to replace your dishwasher, you can do it for under $1,000. I mean, it's going to be a cheap one, but it still won't derail you in terms of like making progress toward your debt. So anyways, I'm like rambling on, but the point that I'm making here is you have to be the one to decide which guidance you follow if you're working to pay down debt. If you're just working to create a budget and you don't have debt, that's something else entirely. And now you're just working on a budget. But the unfortunate truth is that most Americans have a pretty significant amount of debt that they're working to pay down. And so my recommendation to you is, I think Dave Ramsey is full of wisdom, and I think Caleb Hammer is actually full of wisdom. So no matter which protocol, so to speak, you follow, I think you're going to be in a good way either way, because they both have a plan for you to create a successful financial future. And that is really what you're looking at. There's a lot of like influencers and like content creators who have all of this like get rich quick nonsense and no, do this and invest in that and all of that. It's really just it's the simple math that Dave Ramsey and Caleb Hammer both adhere to that I think is just the best guidance to follow when you're trying to set up a budget, especially if you're working to pay down debt. So anyways, now that I've said that, to get back to just the budget itself, regardless of which direction you take, if you set up an emergency fund first and then work, a thick emergency fund, and then you work to pay down your debt, or you do the $1,000 method of Dave Ramsey and then you pay down your debt, either way, you're still going to have to come up with a budget that works for you after you've done that thing so that you can work to pay your debt down, or work to set up an emergency fund, or just work to have a healthy budget that works for your family. And so that is what I'm hoping to guide you through today, even though I just rambled a bunch. So first up, you always start with bills and expenses. Make this, I'm saying this to you knowing that I'm going to have some things in here that are not necessities, but just hear me out on this one. If you're creating a budget for yourself, just start over here with bills and expenses with the necessities. I have an entire section down here for debt. And so don't put debts over here. Think of like your four walls, groceries, toiletries, like stuff like that you have to spend money on. And start from there. You have to have a picture and a real thorough understanding of how much money has to leave your house every single month before you can go tapping into the other things that you may want to spend money on. I will have a couple of bill or categories over here in bills and expenses that are complete like non-necessities, non-essentials. But we've been doing this for a while. And so mostly it's just because sinking funds take up so much space over here that I do put some non-essentials over here. But by and large, just keep it to the basics, the necessities over in bills and expenses, and then I'll get over into what works over here with sinking funds. But first up, we have our mortgage. By the way, if you haven't picked up that you need to go get like a little snack and a drink, this is going to be one of those videos where you need a snack and a drink. And so our mortgage is $2,287.09. And this is why you just count the change too. Really, we're not just making a plan for every dollar, we make a plan for every cent. Our water bill, and I always say this on all of my budget with me's, your utilities, you really sort of have to make a determination on if you just want to wing it and pay the bill as it comes in, or like in our case, we really try to figure out what the average is for a year and then just put that dollar amount down to save for every month. Because then if there's an overage, like if you've budgeted more than your water bill is, you'll be able to roll that money in to the next month, and it will help you pay for a more expensive month. And then that way you're not scratching your head and trying to figure out how in the world am I going to pay this expensive water bill? If you are able to look at your last 6 months to a year of water bills, and then you can figure out what your average is from that. You're able to put that down, and then you won't have to struggle to find the money when you have an expensive water bill that comes in. Like for us here in Texas, we spend more on water in the summer because we have to water our lawn and what is it called? Sprinklers. Good grief. Our sprinklers are running more, like stuff like that. And so our water bill is usually more expensive in the summertime. So is our electric bill. But I'll get down to that as well. But that's the same principle that guides us when it comes to figuring out what we're going to pay for utilities from month to month. If it's like a super fluctuating bill, you really want to figure out what your average is and then just put that down. So we'll be doing $130 for this one. And then next up we have life insurance and car insurance. Life insurance never changes. It is, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry for all of the like car and plane and now helicopter activity that we've got going that's making noise. Life insurance is $144.26. And then our car insurance, like it has the tendency to fluctuate a few dollars here and there. So we don't do an average for that one. And $115 will get us by for this month. Okay, so I'm gonna enter into a situation here where we've got a complete non-essential. My husband trains jujitsu, and this is actually something that comes from his spending money, which our spending money is usually calculated over here in sinking funds. But because it's a monthly bill, and because, like I said earlier, I always run out of space for my sinking funds, we just put it over here. Obviously, if we were to run into a financial emergency, like if my husband lost his job, jujitsu would be on the chopping block like first. So just know that we have a very realistic picture. We've gotten here by doing this for like 2.5 years. We do not consider this an essential. I don't want anybody thinking like, oh, she says she's responsible, but she's paying for jujitsu and her bills and expenses. That's just not how it works. If it came down to it, it would be gone. But it costs $116.10 a month. Next up, we have internet, and if you've been here a while, you will be so proud of us. We called and changed providers because they had increased our internet bill like $20, I want to say, over the last like 6 months to a year. It was ridiculous. So we switched to a different provider, and you will also be happy to know that we are doing the same thing for our cell phone next week. So just lots of adulting around here lately that we're all very proud of. And especially too, our cell phone bill, we've been talking about this for over a year at this point. So please be proud. Give me all the claps and accolades down in the comments. Speaking of the phone bill, we're still paying the old phone bill. So it's $125 a month for that one. I cannot tell you how excited I am to be moving over to a different provider and getting a better price on that one. Funnily enough, when we called to cancel the internet, the company that we were with had the audacity to be like, you should have called us first. We would have given you a better rate. And my husband and I were like, how about you just give us the best rate available, not under like duress, not us threatening to cancel if you don't give us a good rate. I was so like irritated by that because I'm like, no, I've been a customer of yours for how many years? Just give me a good rate instead of making me have to threaten you to leave and then you give me a good rate. It's terrible customer service. Anyways, moving along. We've got our electricity. I can never spell and talk at the same time, I swear. Electricity is another one that we average out. And so we put $200 a month towards it. This covers our cheap months, obviously. But then the overage that we have rolls over and pays for those expensive months, like the super hot months in Texas, like July, August, and September especially are always our like hottest months. And by building up that money in that category, we're able to cover those expensive months by doing it that way. It really works out so that, you don't have like a $150 bill in December, which is lovely. But then all of a sudden in July, you get this like $350 bill and you're like, wait a minute, how am I going to pay for that? This helps you pay for that because you're just building the average, you're rolling the extra over, and it will cover those expensive months for you without you really having to think about it. Next up is groceries. And this is always a super fun topic around here because my grocery bill is so expensive. And I'm going to be doing something a little bit different with it this month, and I'll explain that to you now. So I really do attribute this to my kids having been home over the summer. I felt like we were just going over our grocery budget constantly. And I do think in part it's because my kids were home in the summertime, because it's like, oh, if you're bored, you eat, or, oh, I don't feel like going outside, I'm going to have a snack, or whatever it is. Or they're just home and they know that the food is always available to them, so they're just going to eat it. But I was like, I cannot get a handle on this grocery bill. It's insane. So last month, October, I budgeted $2,200 and I came in $200 under budget. So that's at least making me feel a little bit better about life, because I was like, this is insane. Not to say that the groceries are not going up in price, because they absolutely are. I'm literally watching it happen week to week to week. Like I go to the store and I'm like, oh, ground beef is more expensive. Oh, the frozen fruit that I buy my kids for their smoothies is more expensive. And just this past week, coffee went up $1 a bag. $1 a bag at Trader Joe's. I was so irritated. So I know that the prices are going up. I'm watching it happen, but I was still able to stay under budget. And so what I'm doing this month, we're gonna keep about half of that as rollover, and then we're just gonna put the other half of it toward our emergency fund, because we love being able to do that whenever possible. But what I'm gonna do for this month, we're still going to do like $2,200, but I'm putting $2,100 at groceries. And then I'm going to put another $100 of this over here. I'm like sneaking some money away to a sinking fund, and I'll explain that later on. But if we do maintain this like underspending, we will adjust our budget accordingly. But for the time being, we're still kind of giving ourselves a little bit of leeway and wiggle room, because what I don't want to do is drop the budgeted amount and then we overspend, because that is actually worse to me, because then by the time you get to the end of the month, you've tucked your money in other places and you don't have the available money where you need it. And so I don't want to reduce our budget in groceries just yet until I feel confident that I can do this for a couple of months. And that honestly is, if I could offer a piece of advice, that's the best way to go about doing a budget. You can always tweak this as you go. Please remember that the first budget plan that you create for yourself is not set in stone. You're not chiseling it into a big old rock. It's written on paper. You can tear the paper up. You can adjust as you go. You can acclimate to circumstances. You can adjust for inflation or whatever it is. You need to be flexible. That is one of the biggest piece of advice that I could give you, is just be flexible. Have some grace with yourself. Know that you're not going to get your numbers ironed out right away. We've been at this for 2.5 years, and I still sometimes can't get toiletries and household to a reasonable, predictable budget. So just remember that things are going to change. You're going to have to change with them, and that's okay, as long as you're staying under budget or you're staying within somewhat of a reasonable confines that you, oh my goodness gracious, I just lost all my words. So long as you're staying within the confines that you give yourself, you're not going, like, the world's not going to explode. It's going to be okay. And if going over budget or messing up a little bit here or there means that you have like maybe a little bit less of an impressive debt pay down or less of an impressive amount of money that you're putting toward your emergency fund from month to month, who cares? Like, the purpose of this is not to, I'm going to use a weight loss analogy here. The purpose of this is not to get skinny and then go back to the habits that you had before. The purpose of this is to lose the debt or lose the weight by creating a system that works for you along the way. The best way for you to have long-term change, long-term impact, is to be reasonable about your approach to anything that you're doing. And I'm saying this as a person who's had to lose weight in her life. In my early 20s, I was about 50 pounds overweight. And what I did was just slow incremental changes to my lifestyle that have lasted over the course of time. And that is the best way to do that with budgeting as well. You want to make small incremental changes, be reasonable with yourself, have some grace, eat a Reese's cup, and know that tomorrow when you wake up, you just go back to the way things were before. You go back to you go back to the plan you created. You don't go back to the healthy or the unhealthy methods. You maintain the healthy methods, the slow incremental change, and have some grace, and just know that it's not going to be perfect. But as long as you maintain a reasonable discipline with yourself, you're going to be able to maintain this long-term life change. So that's the grace the wisdom that I can offer you, especially after doing this for 2.5 years. Okay, next up, we have our gasoline purchases for the month. It comes out to $100. And just in case you've never heard of it before, I do use a variety of different cashback apps. I rarely talk about them anymore, but my gas one especially is the one that I really like the most because it gives you actual cash back. It's called Upside. My referral link is down below. I will get bonus something, like bonus cashback or bonus something if you use my referral code. Anybody you refer will also get you will also get a bonus for that as well if you sign up. But it is one of my favorites, like I said, because it gives you cash back. And so whenever you've earned enough cash back, it's like, this is awesome. Like, you can apply it to an area of your budget that you really feel like is lacking, or you can add it right back into your gas fund. It just, you know your budget better than I do. And so you would know where you would put that money. And that's the nice thing about doing a budget and maintaining a budget is it so intimately that if you get $10 cash back in your gas app, you know exactly where you could put that money. I have sometimes I've taken $20 that I've gotten from a cashback app, and I've literally split it among 3 or 4 envelopes because I'm like, oh, $5 here would be nice. $6 there would be nice. It really does make a difference, especially when you've been doing this for so long. You recognize the value of those little bits adding up. Another one actually for this time of year, another really, really, really good one is Rakuten. If you have not signed up for that one, all you have to do is shop through their app, and they offer different percentages of cash back depending on which store you're at. But especially this time of year and on Black Friday, they offer a bump. So it'll be they'll go from say, for example, 3% cash back at Gap to 10% cash back at Gap. So just keep a lookout, especially, again, it's nice to be getting cash back for money that you're already planning to spend if you're going to buy Christmas gifts and things like that. So definitely look at that one. Again, anytime you use a referral link that I have listed below in my description box, I do get some sort of like bonus something from that. So just know that going in. But seriously, just sign up. Even if you don't use my referral link, just sign up for them. It's so worth it to get that free cash back. So anyways, moving right along. Next up, speaking of household and toiletries, I've got household and toiletries. And our goal for both of these is $180 a month. I sort of determine based on how the previous month went, how to split that up. And so right now we're actually looking about the same in both of them. And so I'm just going to give them each $90 this month and work from there. Like I said, sometimes you have one of those months where you've spent a ton on household things. And so you really need to beef that up for the following month. So if we had done something like that, I would have done like maybe 100 or 110 and then like 80 here. And so that's just sort of how we divvy that up from month to month. But the total allotment for both of those is $180. Next up, we have subscriptions. And let me ask you, has there been a bigger bait and switch in the history of mankind than subscription services, streaming services especially, initially being like, ad free, and then all of a sudden you sign up, you're paying for the subscription service, and I swear all of them, Netflix, Hulu, Prime, they have all added ads in. It is the biggest bait and switch of my lifetime. And as a millennial, it angers me because I'm like, wait a second. I grew up with commercials. I was promised no commercials. And now all of a sudden you've sold out and now I'm getting commercials again. So frustrating. Anyways, we try to keep our subscription services at $60 a month. I've mentioned this before, and this is another like little tip or trick along the way. If you're not getting use out of a streaming service, if you just feel like, you know what, this one's kind of crap, just cancel it. And, and that's what we do. Like, depending on the time of year, I like to watch different shows and movies at different times of the year. So depending on the time of year, we'll cancel some subscription services and sign up for others. And doing that has actually really, first of all, it's like focused in our like TV ADD. And we just sort of are like, okay, let's pick something and commit to it and then just watch it. And then once we sort of run out of love for that particular streaming service, we'll cancel it and move over to another one until we get bored of that one. And we really find that has kind of honed in our like absent-minded, like flicking through of these streaming services. And so give that a try if you've never done that before. Like zero in on your favorite 2 or 3 and then just do that. And that's sort of where we land too, because this covers also like our Apple Music, which we never, ever cancel because we like music in this house, especially this time of year. I got all kinds of great Christmas playlists going, so never canceling Apple Music. But anyways, moving right along from that, these last few categories are super important in our household. So we've got taxes, HOA, finance coach, and union dues. Taxes, literally, it's just the money that we save to pay the guy who prepares our taxes for us. And HOA is pretty self-explanatory also, an absolute boil on this country, our HOAs. Finance coach is unfortunately something that's very specific to my husband's job. It is the number one question I get on my channel constantly. It's like, what is a finance coach? Can I have that? Is it going to benefit me? It's just the name that we created for it, honestly, to keep a little bit of anonymity. We really value our anonymity in the Simple household. But it is job specific to my husband. It's like a subscription service, but it's also like a financial recommendation service. But again, it's only specific to his job. And so it costs us $5 a month in order to save up for that annual fee on that subscription service. And then union dues, again, job specific to my husband's job. But one of the nice things about watching content like this, and it's always something that I recommend, especially watch content creators who have similar lifestyles to you. Not because it's better, but just because it's better for you. Because if you are like me and your introduction to budgeting was a lovely, no issue with this channel whatsoever. It's, oh shoot, what's her name? Maria Budgets or Maria's Budgeting, something like that. She was the first ever cash stuffing video that came across my feed. And I was like, what the heck is this? And then I got really into it, obviously, but she's single. She's not married, or at least at the time when I started watching her, she didn't have kids. She wasn't married. And so her lifestyle was very different to mine. And so there were obviously there are basics that we all share, like housing and food. But as far as the nitty gritty details of your budget, you're not going to really get a lot of oh, I didn't even think about that category from somebody who doesn't share a similar lifestyle to you. But maybe, like my husband, you have a job that has a union that you have to pay dues into or whatever. Or like me, when I finally watched my first ever content creator who had children, and I saw, and yes, I really did need to see somebody else create this category in order to know that I needed to include it in my budget. School supplies. I was like, oh my gosh, I didn't even think about school related expenses. And it's not just school supplies. We call it school things now because it's field trips, it's picture day, it's, hey mom, there's a dance on Friday and I have to pay $5 to get in, or whatever it is. I needed to think about those kinds of things. And it was not an expense that was at the forefront of my thought process when we first started creating a budget. So I was so grateful that I finally came across content creators who had families, because it kind of helped me to mirror some of their categories because they made more sense for my life. Not to say you shouldn't continue to support your favorite content creators because you just like them, because there are actually two single childless girls who I follow who I just like their content. I think they're fabulous. But in terms of trying to think up the different categories of your life and your budget, it really helps to watch another content creator whose life is similar to yours, because then you really are coming up with all of the possible categories of things that you're going to spend money on throughout the course of a year. So just think about that as you're moving forward. That's another little piece of advice for you. So now that we've done this, the total of this first section was $5,679.45. And so this is going to determine how much extra money you have as you move through your budget. One of the things that I think Dave Ramsey recommends, for example, is when you're paying down debt, it's you're living on beans and rice and you're only paying for the essentials, and that's the end of it. You know what I mean? Then everything else goes toward debt. My husband and I wanted to create a more realistic plan for us that would work long term, because we knew we weren't going to flub this. We knew we were, speaking of my husband, he just walked past me. Anyways, he's very distracting, when the husbands walk past you, it's very distracting. Anyways, for us, we knew that we weren't going to lose our commitment to paying down our debt. And so what we wanted to do in those early months of debt payoff was create a more thorough, robust budget that was going to work for us long-term, that we might tweak here and there, adding more money to certain categories and things like that, in order to be able to save up more as the months went on. But by and large, we just wanted to create a plan that was going to work for us for all the time, not just the time that we were paying our debt down. And so that's why we move over into sinking funds. Again, you're really going to have to think about what philosophy you want to adopt before you move into this, because there are lots of arguments to be made for doing it Dave Ramsey's way, or doing it, like I said, Caleb Hammer's way, or if there's another person like that out there in the ether. I don't really know, but those are the two that I go to, because to me, they're the most realistic and helpful in terms of really focusing you in on getting out of debt and creating financial stability for yourself. So for us, we moved into sinking funds next. And then once we had the totals for these two categories, that was the leftover money that we threw at our debt. And so today we still do that. After we figure out what we're spending in these two sections here, we throw any extra money that we have left over to our emergency fund. But I'll get into it and kind of talk you through it so that you can kind of see how we've made this plan work for us and why we chose to do it this way. So first up, you're going to have for us, and sinking funds, not you. I mean, do whatever works for you. First up, we have car expenses. And by the way, I think like the official definition of sinking fund is literally a category of your budget or a fund of your budget that you sink money into, because this is not a category that you're going to spend money from all the time. You may spend from it throughout the year at some point, but you're not going to spend, like, it's not in your bills and expenses. Like, you're not going to have car expenses. Hopefully you're not going to have car expenses every month, but you are at some point throughout the year going to get your oil changed, or maybe you treat yourself to a car wash or whatever. Maybe you have to have your tires rotated. Like, that's all stuff that you have to think about and you want to put money toward, so that when those expenses come up, you have the money sitting there and waiting for you. And it's not like a, oh shoot, how am I going to pay this bill kind of situation. And so that's why, or this is one of the categories that we started from the very beginning, because we wanted to make sure that we were building up these categories so that we had money sitting and waiting for us if we needed to use it. And so first up, like I said, car expenses. And so it's $57. This $7 every single month adds up for us to pay for our annual car registration. And then the remaining $50 is, again, that money that we let build up throughout the year so that when we need to have our oil changed, we do. If we have to have, tires rotated, we do that. And so that remaining $50 is what builds up almost like a mini car emergency fund, so that you can use that money for a car related expense if that expense pops up on you throughout the year. Next up, likewise, is home maintenance. And this is one that we're trying to add a little bit more money to as we go. And so we budgeted $100 for it this month. And then this is where I will put money that I would like. It's my goal amount to add with Etsy and YouTube. And so I would like to be able to contribute another $25 to home maintenance. I always put those goal amounts for myself over here, because it really helps me when I get my Etsy pay from week to week to know, okay, what was it that I wanted to do with this money, rather than just keeping it in my brain, because I will lose it there. Next up, we have medical. And you'll notice the theme. All of these are super high priority categories to be putting your money towards, so that you can make sure that you cover these expenses as they come up throughout the year. Again, you're not going to spend this money every single month, but you will spend it at some point throughout the year. And you really don't want to be stuck not having prepared for such an occasion, especially medical stuff. Try to put as much money aside for that as you can. In fact, I would even say, if you can, if you're figuring out okay, how much money do I want to set aside for this? How much money do I want to set aside for that? We have found, starting from a baseline of having whatever your emergency room deductible is, have that, and then just add to it every single month, because it has gotten us out of a lot of wonky emergency room situations, which we've had come up quite a few times over the last couple of years. So just know that going forward. So medical, again, we're budgeting $100 this month. And because we're happy with where we're sitting on this one right now, I'm not going to be contributing to it with Etsy and YouTube. Clothes took a hit with back to school. Clothes, we're finally coming out of the red and into the black on that one, which is nice. I'm going to be budgeting $50 this month for it, and then supplementing an additional $50 with Etsy and YouTube Pay. Next up is haircuts, and this covers the haircuts for my husband and kids. We put $80 a month toward it, and it's enough to cover my husband's haircut. He gets one once a month, and then my son and daughter get them every so often. And so it's enough to kind of cover his one haircut, and then building up for the kids to get their haircuts as well. His and hers, why is that doing that? His and hers are up next. This is my husband and I's spending money. Like I mentioned, his jujitsu cost over here comes from his spending money. So he gets a remainder of $50 throughout the rest of the month after his jujitsu comes out. And then I get $195, and I split this up into 3 different personal categories. And so if you stay tuned for my cash stuffings, you will see that, and how I choose to spend my money and why. A lot of it is encouraging me to save for more higher quality items that usually cost a little bit more money. And so I factor that as an envelope all on its own. I do give myself a little bit of spending money every single month as well for little coffee stops and things like that. Or if I just see a cute mug, y'all know I love my coffee mugs around here. So if I see a coffee mug that I really like, I am more inclined to buy that, but that comes from my spending money. And then I also have an envelope just for my haircut as well. So that's how I break it down. So if you stay tuned for my cash stuffings, you'll see how I do that. Next up, we have dates. It's pretty self-explanatory. We're budgeting $30 for that this month because we don't go on a date every single month. That is our goal for eventually one day, but for the time being, we just save up and go on them like every few months. Family fun is up next. This covers a variety of different things. If we rent a movie, if we go to the botanical gardens or the zoo, something like that. We do a lot more in the summer than we do in the fall and winter. So we're budgeting $30 for it this month. And then I'm gonna go ahead and supplement it another $30 also with Etsy and YouTube. Sorry, another loud vehicle. Dine out is up next. I don't put any money toward this from our main budget, but I do like to put it as a line item here just to remind me that if I have the spare cash, to put $40 with it with my side income. This is just how I choose to remind myself of it because again, if I leave it in my head, I'm gonna lose it. Next up is gifts. And I wanted to I usually do about $30, but I'm doing $50 this month because already we've been invited to a Friendsgiving. And so I just want to make sure that between Thanksgiving and Christmas, I'm putting a little bit more toward gifts so that we can do like a hostess gift or whatever it is, for something like that. If we're invited to some sort of event at somebody's home, to be able to do a little gift for that. So that's why I decided on that this month. And hopefully that reminds you to do the same thing if you so choose. Next up is partay. This is a Friends reference. Ross says it in one of the later seasons. He refers to a party that he's hosting as a partay, which is just so very Ross. And this mostly just covers our kids' birthday parties when we have them. They are, bless it, 6 months apart from each other. Like their birthdays are 6 months apart. And so we have ample time to save up for their birthday parties in between each child. But also if we happen to host some friends or whatever, we may pool the cost of that. If there's like a meal involved, we will pull the cost of that from that as well, excuse me. And I'll be budgeting $45 for that this month. Next up, the aforementioned school things. We're running a little light in this envelope, and so I decided to go ahead and budget $60 for it, and then I'm gonna be supplementing it also with Etsy and YouTube $30 because it is in dire straits. Next up, we've got little holidays, and how you choose to budget holidays is really up to you. I'm so sorry if you can hear, there's a bus in the background. They're so loud. Valentine's, Easter, and Halloween, we literally just budget enough to like cover the basic expenses for these things. So for Valentine's Day, it's so my daughter can buy Valentines for her classmates. And also like, so that I can get my kids like little Valentine's gifts. Easter covers their Easter baskets, and then Halloween covers Halloween candy for us to pass out to neighbors, and also my kids' Halloween costumes. So $5, $7, and $12 a month is enough to get us there. I may increase Halloween. We'll see. Next up is Thanksgiving. I'm just gonna write thanks, and it gets $30 a month, and that's enough to cover our meal and desserts, and possibly, honestly, even if we have company over, that's still enough to cover the meal and desserts for, like if we had like one other family over with us in addition to us. But we will actually be company free this Thanksgiving, so I will roll any leftover I have onto a different category that I'll talk about in a couple spaces here. Next up, we have Christmas. This is our big holiday. And this is one, if I could encourage you to plan ahead for any holiday, it is Christmas if you celebrate. This was one that I hyper fixated on making sure that we had enough money for when we first started budgeting. We very fortunately had about 11 months to save for Christmas when we did our first ever budget. But we still had to squeak money in there from like just extra money that we found along the way, so to speak, in order to make sure that we reached our goal amount. And obviously like Christmas, like what you spend at Christmas is very personal. Some people spend a lot, some people don't spend hardly anything. For us, we spend what we spend because we really like to embrace that whole like magical thing. We don't really do a lot for our kids throughout the year in terms of like buying them things. I'm not the type to just like randomly take them to a store and buy them something. I really like to save that for Christmas, and I like the whole like the Christmas morning and the presents under the tree. I just like that whole experience, and so we pay for that. And so we save $275 a month to get us there. It also kind of covers a little bit of extra things too, like decorations here and there and like our Christmas tree. We factor all of that into this dollar amount. Next up is our pool membership. We pay for this at the beginning of the summer, excuse me, every year. And it costs us $32 a month to, $32 a month to get to where we need to be for that goal amount. Next up is vacation, and this is something that will change once we finally reach our emergency fund goal. We will contribute more to our vacation fund at that time, but for the time being, just contributing to it at all is really nice for us, and so we put $225 a month toward it, and then I like to supplement $25 whenever possible as well, because I really like that whole $250 number at the end of every month. So anyways, last category over here is a category that I call eat dessert first. You know, life is short, eat dessert first. And this is the category that I was mentioning. I'll roll over extra from Thanksgiving into it. And then also this is where this extra $100 from groceries is gonna go this month. And the reason for that, if you're new to my channel, is because this is an event that we decided last year to make an annual thing where we host family, friends, neighbors, in a sort of like open house kind of thing where we serve dessert and charcuterie and wine and drinks and just having a good time, unwinding, enjoying each other's company, as like a little, well, last year we did it on Thanksgiving weekend, which I will never, ever, ever, ever do again. That was too much in the span of like 3 days. But this year we're kind of putting it smack dab in between both Thanksgiving and Christmas, and we're really looking forward to it. And obviously it's gonna take some money to feed a bunch of people coming into your house and eating and drinking. So I've been trying to like tuck money into this envelope whenever possible. And so I am borrowing $100 from groceries this month and rolling over whatever leftover Thanksgiving money we have into this as well to kind of help give this a nice, robust, healthy budget, if you will. And so I will also be supplementing $30 as well, just so that I can throw as much money toward this as I possibly can. So the total from this section is $1,533, and then my goal supplement money amount is $230. And so then what we do is, and I don't actually, oh yes I do, I have a calculator here. So we started with $8,999.44. Bills and expenses took us $56.79.45. And then over here, another $15.33. And so that leaves us with $1,786.99. But so let me just make sure you can see. So we have our emergency fund. Obviously that is like a super high priority for us. But we also, and I've talked about this on my channel before, we have investment accounts for our children. We have a son and a daughter.
This is called eating.
So my daughter just came home from school, and Mr. Simple is digging through the kids' Halloween candy, and he was lamenting. No, come back out here and tell them what you just said. What is this, tier 2 candy? We're down to Milky Ways and Three Musketeers. Everybody knows that Reese's and Snickers are the best. Everybody, right? So that's the tier 1 candy. Oh, there it is. But he was lamenting, oh man, we're stuck with Milky Ways and Three Musketeers now. That's not, honestly, in the Veda worldview, that's trash tier candy.
Crunch and Crackle are up there too.
Crunch and Crackle are tier 2. Reese's and Snickers are tier 1. Crunch and Crackle are tier 2. Milky Ways and Three Musketeers, like who even invented those?
That's hobo candy.
Straight to jail. Did you call it hobo candy? Dead. Anyways, goodness, now that we're done with that, hopefully we gave you a little chuckle there. Okay, so like I was saying, so in our savings section, we don't have debt. In our savings section, we have emergency fund, and then we have investment accounts for our son and our daughter. So I just write boy and girl here because, again, we like to maintain anonymity here on this channel. We give them $25 each, and I always say this, so if you've been here for a while, you're probably sick of it. It adds up. It adds up so fast. You wouldn't even think it, but like checking their little investment accounts every single month is the most fun thing in the whole wide world to me, because I'm like, look at the way that we're contributing to this. And like, obviously they know about budgeting, and we talk to them about money and finances and stuff a lot. And they know that in the future when they get jobs, like, because my son is like chomping in the bit. He's so upset that Chick-fil-A doesn't hire until 16 because he's like ready to start working for them now. But we've said to them, like, we will match your contribution up to $50. So when they have jobs, when they're teenagers, if they contribute $50 to their investment accounts, we will match them $50. If they put $30 toward it, we'll match $30. And it's just to encourage them to think not only just about savings and not only just about budgeting health, like in a healthy way, but also to invest in their future, because it's so, so, so important. And so it's just so fun to watch this account grow. And like Mr. Simple and I even just did the math the other day, like, because I had watched a video on grandparents who had saved money for their grandchildren from the day of birth until they turned 18. And, what they were like, when we did the math on that, if we did like $25 a month for each grandkid, the math on that from birth to 18 was just incredible. Plus, especially if you're putting it into some sort of like index fund, the S&P is very successful, and I think it doubles every 7 years or something like that. So invest as early as you can, as often as you can, and even the little bits of money add up. If I could encourage you with anything, do it, do it, do it. So anyways, that leaves us for our emergency fund with $1,736.99. We love to be able to do a whole $2,000 if we can. And so I just like to put that down as a little goal for myself. I'm just going to draw an arrow that I will need to add $266.01 with my Etsy and YouTube pay in order to get this up to $2,000. Again, having grace with yourself is super duper important, especially like we've not been able to save for our emergency fund as quickly as we were able to pay down debt. But I also had a job outside of the home while we were doing that. And so we were able to be hyper aggressive with that. This is just the progress that we're making with the extra money from Mr. Simple's pay almost exclusively. I mean, obviously, like I said, I earn money from Etsy and YouTube. I am able to contribute because of those things, but it's his paycheck is doing the work here. So anyways, that is it. This is a zero-based budget. This is creating a plan for every single dollar that's going to come into our house in the month of November. And I cannot tell you, if you apply the little tidbits of information that I've given you along the way, it really does help. If I could leave you with anything else, it's also to like take into consideration, like I was saying earlier when I said, like with like losing weight or getting healthy, the goal is not to lose the weight and then go back right to the lifestyle that got you overweight to begin with. It's to make small, incremental, long-lasting changes along the way so that you're slowly tweaking the way that you do things, because that is going to provide you with the most longevity in terms of actually making something stick or making something work. They say that it takes 30 days to create a habit. I've heard some people say 60 or 90, but the point of this is you are going to have to put in work. You're going to have to put in effort. You're going to have to enact some discipline. If you're a person who likes to spend, that's me. I have had to do a lot of work on myself to like recognize those flaws in myself of impulse buying and dopamine chasing and all of that kind of stuff. This is like a thing that you have to do in conjunction with actually creating a plan. And I also always say the bread and butter of budgeting is also in tracking your expenses and holding your spending accountable. I do those videos every Friday. So if you want to see kind of how I make that work, stay tuned for that, because half of this budget actually sits in our checking account and then we cash stuff the other half. And so Actually, to that end, I'm going to be doing the first cash stuffing of November. The video is going to go up tomorrow for you guys because I was late in getting you the November budget with me. But you're going to get to see Wednesday, Thursday, Friday this week, the whole picture of sort of how we make this work. I do have other videos in my budget with me as if I've been able to make the video a little bit shorter where I show you how I map out my funding for the month in terms of how I cash stuff. So you can kind of see how the process unfolds. And then on my channel here, especially, I have a very streamlined, it's not very exciting. I have the same content every single week. But my purpose for that is because I just want to showcase how the system, even though it's boring, even though it's repetitive, it works. If you do this and you maintain this level of discipline over the course of time, you will carve out a financial success story for yourself that matches your worldview. It matches how you want to, or where you want to go financially in the future. This is all a gateway for achieving those ends. So if you want to see how I do that on my channel, like I said, my content doesn't really change from week to week, but you get to see how this manifests over the course of time, how we handle things like holidays, how we handle things like unexpected expenses, because you can never plan for those things. I mean, we were just in a pediatric orthopedist's office yesterday because my daughter broke her finger over the weekend. And so that comes out of our medical fund, but it's not a scary thing because we've been saving for it for all this time. And so it's taking this principle of zero-based budgeting and consistency and discipline and allowing it to work for those real life circumstances that you're going to deal with over the course of time. It just happens. Life happens. And having a roadmap, like a healthy budget like this, that factors in all of the different categories of spending in your life, is the way to get you there. So I hope that you stay tuned for that. I hope that this is helpful to you. Please don't hesitate to ask me questions if you have any. I really want to foster and create a community here of people who want to learn and can learn in an environment where they're not going to be criticized and ridiculed. So that's it. Let's go ahead and zoom back out and we'll finish out this video. All right. It's not even late in the day, but the time change has really messed with my daylight during when I film. Anyways, like I said, I hope you guys found this video helpful. And also, like I said at the beginning, stay tuned because I will be announcing when I get my updated budget planner up for you guys, as well as obviously I'm going to have 2026 dashboards and 2026 calendar or little planner cards as well. Stay tuned for that as well. Those will be coming very soon. But yeah, otherwise, that's it for me for today, you guys. I hope you enjoyed this video. And if you did, I would love it so much if you would give me a thumbs up and leave me a comment down below. Like I said, I will be back here with you guys again tomorrow with the first cash stuffing of November, because I didn't get that up for you earlier this week, but it's all been wonky. But yeah, so stay tuned for that one. Have a wonderful rest of your Wednesday, and I will see you tomorrow. Okay? Bye, everyone.